Previous lecture we started finite element formulation for transverse vibration. We could able to develop the elemental equation with the help of the governing equation related with the Euler-Bernoulli beam model. And now in today's lecture we will try to take up some numerical example, so that the method of finite element method is more clear, especially the assembly of the equations, application of the boundary conditions, how to solve the eigenvalue problem to get the natural frequency and mode shape, even the force response for a given unbalance into the system. And then if time permits, we will go for calculation of the proportional damping. Generally in the Euler-Bernoulli beam model there is no damping terms. So, generally Rayleigh's damping is considered in the finite element method, and some reduction techniques in which we can able to reduce the degree of freedom of the system if it becomes large to solve the eigenvalue problem. So, with this let us see what are the things we will cover. So, basically we will be focusing on the transverse vibration only by finite element method. Both free and forced vibration numerical problems will be taking up. The unbalanced response will be obtaining. Proportional damping and some kind of reduction schemes we will try to discuss in this present lecture. So, we will take up one example. In this particular example, basically we have one beam or a rotor or a shaft, and in this particular shaft we are considering the shaft property, both mass and stiffness, which is distributed over the length of the shaft. That means the shaft is having enough inertia property, and we are considering simply supported end conditions. For analyzing and for illustration purpose, I have divided this shaft in 3 elements. We could have divided into more number of elements to get more accuracy, but for showing the matrices for elemental and assembled, this 3 element model will be more meaningful. So, for this particular rotor we have all the property, including the diameter of the shaft, length of the shaft, property of the material of the shaft, and basically we need to obtain the natural frequency. And once we will develop the assembled equation, apply the boundary condition, as I mentioned, we can able to take more number of elements to get better accuracy in the results. So, we will see that if we increase the number of element, how this natural frequency converges close to the actual values, because for this particular case, simply supported case, we already obtained the continuous system closed form solution. So, we will try to compare the results with the closed form solution of the finite element method. So, with this given property, we can able to obtain further property like area, second moment of area of the shaft, and for beam element we will be obtaining the mass property. So, this will be required for the mass matrix, this will be required for the stiffness matrix. Now, for element 1, because element 1 is having only, so this is element 1 elemental equation. So, for element 1 we have node 1 and 2, and correspondingly these are the nodal displacements. This is the mass matrix, this we already calculated earlier for the mass. This is stiffness matrix, and this is the reaction force and moment. So, we are not considering any external force, so that particular vector is 0 here. So, this is the elemental equation for element 1. On the same line, we can able to obtain equation for element 2 and 3 in this, because the size of the element is exactly same, so mass and stiffness matrix will be exactly same as the previous one. Only the nodal displacement vector here 2 and 3 will be there, and here 3 and 4 will be there for element 2 and 3 respectively. Similarly, here these are the reaction force and moment of the element 2 and 3. So, once we obtain the elementary equation for all 3 elements, we can able to assemble them. So, now assembly we already discussed in detail in torsional vibration also, and for this case also. So, I am not giving more detail of the assembly procedure, but you can able to see that this particular vector will now contain all the degree of freedom of the element. So, we have 4 nodes. So, corresponding to 4 nodes, because each node is having 2 degree of freedom. So, this vector is having size 8 into 1. So, mass matrix is having size 8 into 8. This is symmetric. So, only one portion of the off diagonal terms have been shown, because this is symmetric. Similarly, this stiffness matrix, this assembled stiffness matrix, in the reaction force, the shear force and bending moment at the common node, that is 2 and 3, this reaction force and moments will cancel each other. These are at node 1 and 4, and they will not be 0 unless and that will be specified by the boundary condition of the problem. And boundary condition of the problem, because node 1 is simply supported and node 4 is simply supported, so displacement at these locations will be 0, and the bending moment also will be 0 at these nodes. So, we have this displacement and this displacement 0 as a boundary condition of the simply supported case. Also, these bending moments are 0. Now, we can able to see that in this particular right hand side vector, the first term and the 7th term is containing the reaction of the support that is unknown. So, among this will be eliminating the first and the 7th row equations. So, basically you can able to see that we will be having in this mass matrix, we will be eliminating the first column and first row. Similarly, in the stiffness matrix, first column and first row will eliminate, and 7th column and 7th row will eliminate. Here also 7th column and 7th row we will eliminate. So, remaining terms will be carrying into the reduced form of the assembled equation. So, if we see the next equation, this is the reduced form, and this form, because we have eliminated already 2 rows and 2 columns. So, this will be, instead of 8 into 1, now 6 into 1 will be there. Mass matrix will be 6 into 6. Similarly, stiffness matrix will be 6 into 6. This vector is also 6 into 1. Because we have eliminated the equation corresponding to the reaction force at the support, that is the shear force. So, those terms, so this vector will be 0, because deliberately we eliminated them, in which we had the unknowns in the right hand side. So, now you can able to see this particular equation for simple harmonic motion, we can able to write like this. Basically, we already seen this kind of conversion. So, we have this kind of equation for simple harmonic motion. X double dot can be written as this, where omega nf is the natural frequency of the system. So, if we substitute this here, we will get the form of the equation like this. And this is the basically that particular form, in which this is the mass matrix, this minus omega nf square. This is the K stiffness matrix. So this is stiffness matrix, this is mass matrix. So this equation is of this form basically, and because this is a homogeneous equation, for non-trivial solution of this we need to have determinant of this equal to 0, or what we can do, if we can able to convert this into eigenvalue problem. So here we have multiplied by K inverse here throughout. So basically we got K inverse into M minus this K inverse into K inverse will give identity matrix to nu naught is equal to 0. So basically this K inverse into M I am writing as A, so A matrix, and I have expressed this as lambda. So this is the standard eigenvalue problem. So if we obtain the eigenvalue of A matrix, the square root of that will give us the natural frequency, and eigenvectors will be the mode shape. So let us see in more detail the calculation of that. So if we obtain the eigenvalue, this is for the 3 element which I have shown the illustration. So if we take the eigenvalue square root, we will get the natural frequencies. So these are the natural frequency for first mode, second, third, fourth, fifth. If we do the same exercise for 6 element, generally for this maybe we need to program the assembly of the equations in a computer, so that we can able to increase the size automatically. Just we need to change the number of elements, and the program should able to take care of the how we should assemble the equations. If number of elements are more, how to apply the boundary condition, that should be incorporated in the program. So if it is 6 element, then these natural frequency will be this. So you can able to see the first, second is close, but third there is a difference, fourth also difference is there, fifth also lot of difference is there. So that means with 3 element, whatever the natural frequency we are getting up to 5th mode, they are not accurate, but up to 2nd mode they are reasonably okay. If we want to find out whether 6th element is enough or we need to have more elements, so let us take 10 elements. If we take 10 elements, we will see that third is also now reasonably okay, not much change. Fourth is also not much change, but fifth there is change. So that means 10 element is still giving a better natural frequency calculation for 5th mode, and even for 4th there is a slight difference. And generally we will find that if we are taking more number of element, whatever the natural frequency we will get, that will be more accurate. So just to test whether these are accurate, I have taken 50 elements. So you can able to see now up to 4th element, I think with 4th mode up to 10th element itself we have got that. There is slight improvement in the 5th mode as compared to the 10th element. So with 50 element we could able to get quite accurate results up to the 5th mode, but let us compare this with the closed form solution, because that is the we obtained in the previous lectures using the continuous system approach, using separation of variable method, we obtained closed form of this, and with that these are the values. So you can able to see that with 50 elements we could able to get quite accurately the natural frequency calculation up to 5th mode. And for calculation of this, just for so this was the analytical expression for the natural frequency, where n 1 2 3 4 we can able to substitute and get the natural frequencies. So basically natural frequency is given by this. For simply supported beam case, we need to put 1 2 3 4 one by one here to get the closed form or analytical solution of the this particular problem. Now, once we obtain the natural frequency, let us see how we can get the mode shape. So, in mode shape, basically the eigenvector, because we will be getting eigenvalue as well as eigenvector if you are using any software for this. So, eigenvector stacking will be like this. So, the first column of the eigenvector, because eigenvector will be for 3 element, the size of the eigenvector matrix will be 6 into 6, and the first column of that is this particular values, and the corresponding variables, if you see, which we got after the application of the boundary condition in the equation of motion. So, we applied the boundary conditions and we do the reduced form of the equation. So, this order, these vectors, this particular field variables are corresponding to the eigenvectors which we are getting. So, you can able to see the first column of the eigenvector matrix will belong to this particular field variables. Similarly, for the second column. So, if we want to obtain the first mode shape for translational displacement, so obviously we need to pick up the V2 and V3. So, correspondingly we need to pick up this term and this term for linear displacement. Others are corresponding to the slope, but if we want the mode shape corresponding to the translational displacement, obviously we need to pick up this too. So, this we have picked up V2 and V3 here. We already know at node 1 and 4, because it is simply supported end condition, the displacements are 0. So, that we can add up here. So, now you can able to see for 3 element only 4 nodal displacement informations are there, and with this, if we plot the mode shape, we may not get that much accurate, but if we want to plot this, we'll see that at node 1 and 2 is 0, at node 1 and 4 is 0, and for 2 and 3 is some value. So, if we, and in between this we can able to join, or we can able to predict the displacement using shape function. So, and shape function is cubic in nature. So, we will get something like this for first mode, but only these are intermediate points we know from the finite element method. In between we need to predict using the shape function. So, this is for the first mode. For second mode, the second column we need to pick up. So, corresponding this and this we need to pick up. So, in this you can able to see this is negative, this is positive, they are 0. So, if we want to plot the mode shape, this 1 and 4 are 0, this is let us say negative at element 2, node 2, and for this is positive. In between we will be predicting using the shape function. So, we expect the mode shape like this, but for plotting the mode shape, it will be better if we take more number of elements and get more intermediate points. But just for illustration purpose, here I have shown with 3 element how to pick up these eigenvectors variable for translational displacement for mode 1 and mode 2. And if we want to plot the slope corresponding to the slope, the mode shape, then we need to pick up that corresponding, you can able to see this and this and this and this 4 corresponding to 4 nodes will get the slopes. These are the corresponding to that. They can be drawn separately. This is for first natural frequency corresponding to the first natural frequency, and this is corresponding to the second natural frequency. This mode shape we are plotted for more number of elements. So, you can able to see the first mode is this one. So this is not for 3 element, we took more number of elements and we have drawn. So this half sign you can able to see for first mode. Then second mode is full sign. This is full sign, second mode. Similarly, third mode will be this 1 and half sign. Similarly, 4, 5 mode shape can be identified. So here, if we take more number of element, if we use shape function, we will able to get better mode shapes. Basically, you can able to see this is the 0 line, and the modes are varying between the 0 and 1. And if we draw this line, you will see that this line will intersect the mode shapes at various positions. Those are nothing but the node positions where the displacement will remain 0, as we have already seen in the torsional vibration case also. These nodal positions are more critical, even the displacements are 0, but stresses will be more at these locations. This is corresponding the slope variation for mode 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can able to say this is for first mode, second mode. This is the slope variation, as we have seen in the previous eigenvector contains not only the linear displacement, also the slope. So that can be extracted, and the slope variation along the length of the beam can be seen. Basically, this horizontal axis is representing the length of the beam, and this is the amplitude of the displacement. So because mode shapes are always relative, so this we have scaled up, scaled to a nice number like 1 and -1, and this is the length of the beam. Through a very simple example with 3 element, we illustrated the how we can able to calculate the natural frequency and how we can able to extract the mode shape. Now we will take up some more examples, especially in the while dealing with the transfer matrix method. We saw that when there is intermediate support in the rotor system, then we have difficulty in solving such a system. So let us see in finite element method, if there is intermediate support in the rotor system, how we can able to handle that particular case. So in this particular case example, this example is exactly same as we did in the torsional transverse vibration case. So there is an intermediate support, and this is basically simply support, and this is overhang portion of the rotor. Various properties are given here: mass, diametral mass, moment of inertia of the disc, and various lengths of the shaft, diameter of the shaft, and the mass and elastic property of the shaft. Here we are not considering the gyroscopic couple effect. So in this particular case, again for simplicity, we are dividing into 2 elements. So this is one element, and this is the second element. Correspondingly, we have 3 nodes, and now we are writing the elemental equation for element 1 and element 2. So this is a standard mass matrix and stiffness matrix for Euler-Bernoulli beam element. This will be using it for obtaining the elemental equation. So basically, we are considering the mass of the shaft also along with the mass of the disc. So various property we can able to calculate: area, second moment of area from the given data. For element 1, because the dimensions are given, so this is the elemental length, and now this is the elemental equation. So basically, this is a mass matrix, this is stiffness matrix, and this is the reaction torque. In this particular case, we are not considering any external force. So now you can able to see that apart from the mass of the shaft, the mass of the disc, this is corresponding to the mass of the disc, and this is the diametral mass point of inertia of the disc. Because that particular disc is at node 1, so at diagonal terms they are appearing. This is the mass, this is the diametral mass moment of inertia of the disc. So at node 1 they are appearing, but not at node 2. So this is for element 1. Similarly, for element 2, because element length is different, so we will be having property like this. In element 2 there is no concentrated mass, so the mass matrix, stiffness matrix will be like this. In this particular case, reaction, this is the reaction torque, reaction forces. Apart from this, because once we take out the shaft from the support, there will be reaction from the shaft, reaction from the bearing. Okay, this reaction from the bearing and this particular shear force, they are different. This is coming because we have cut the shaft in two pieces. That's why it is coming. If we join two shafts, this will cancel because this is at the common node, but this will remain because this is coming from the bearing. So this is important to see how to handle the intermediate support, that we need to add the reaction force from the support, which is unknown, as external force, because it is not giving moment, so it will not come here, it will come in the node 2 position only. So now we have obtained the elemental equation for 1 and 2, only two elements we have considered. Now we can able to assemble them. So once we assemble them, this is the mass matrix. You can able to see now total degree of freedom of the system is 6. So field variables are here 6. Size of this vector is 6 into 1. Mass matrix size is 6 into 6. Stiffness matrix 6 into 6. So you can able to see intermediate reaction force and moment will cancel each other, but this bearing reaction will remain there. Now you can able to see, now this is ready for application of the other boundary conditions, that is at node 1 and 3. So let us see what are the boundary conditions at node 1. So this is the shaft. Node 1 is this one. Here we know that shear force and bending moments are 0. So this is at node 1. At node 2, we have displacement 0 from the, because this is a support, and at node 3 here, not only the displacement but moment is also 0. In this particular support, the moment is not 0. As such, this is not a simply supported condition. That's why this moment is not 0. But so this is very important to observe the difference between these two support conditions, because in this, the right hand side, there is no further extension of the shaft. So the moment on this bending moment is 0, and because of that, this we are getting it. But here, because this shaft is continuous, so as such there will not be 0 bending moment at this location. Now let us apply these boundary conditions into the previous problem. So we have bending moment and shear force and bending moment at node 1 0. At node 3 bending moment is 0, and V2 is 0. V2 is 0 at support. V3 is 0 at support, second support. So that means once we apply these boundary conditions, now we need to look into the right hand side. So in right hand side, those terms in which we have zeros only, we will be picking those equations. So first equation, second equation, third is having one unknown. So we will eliminate this particular equation from the reduced form of the equation. This will be picking up, there is unknown here. So basically we will be removing two, this particular equation, third equation, and the fifth equation from this, and the remaining equations will be keeping with us. So basically if you see, the third row and fifth row will be eliminating from both mass and stiffness matrix. Third row and third column and fifth column, and then corresponding rows also. So, this row and this row we will eliminate, this third row and fifth row we will eliminate. So, remaining terms we are, so basically here we will see that this will get eliminated, this will get eliminated. So, this is the reduced form of that. So, reduced form will be, this vector will be 4 into 1 because we have eliminated 2 variables. Here 4 into 4 size will be there, this is also 4 by 4. Now, this is ready for eigenvalue problem solution. Now, basically again we can able to take up the inverse of K, so that we will get the D matrix. So, D is defined as inverse of M into K. So, this particular is we can able to obtain the eigenvalue of D matrix, this particular D matrix, which is M inverse into K. So, this will give us the eigenvalue and eigenvector. Square root of the eigenvalue will give us the natural frequency. So, in this particular case, because we are illustrated with the 2 element, so with that if we calculate the natural frequency, we will get this 4 natural frequencies. But if we take more number of elements by, let us say, 20 elements, by dividing this into 20 elements, we will get this refined value of this. But you can able to see that the first natural frequency and second, even with 2 elements we are getting reasonably well, but third onwards we are not getting that much accurate. So, if we are interested in first few, then even 2 elements is good enough. From this we can able to see, but is always better to check by increasing the number of elements how the natural frequencies are changing. If there is not much change up to the mode we want, based on that we can able to decide how many number of elements we should choose. So, this is called convergence study, in which we gradually increase the number of elements and see the change in the natural frequencies. If there is not much change in the natural frequency up to the mode we require, we stop the number of element at that position, because if we increase the number of elements, obviously computational time will be more and more. So, we need to have some kind of trade off between the number of elements and the computation time and the accuracy. And this is the mode shapes, the relative linear displacements. As we discussed in the previous case, on the same lines we can able to extract the mode, this mode shape. So, you can able to see the first mode. Basically, this is the intermediate support, this is the other support, because this is the length of the shaft, total length of the shaft. So, first mode is like this, disk is position is here, second mode will be like this, third this one, because this is support. So, all the displacements are 0 here. So, you can able to see that we can able to get the mode shapes, the fourth mode shape, and we have interpolated in between using the shape function. That is why these curves mode shapes are very smooth. Also, we have normalized from -1 to 1. So that we can able to compare these mode shapes easily. This is corresponding slope variation along the length of the shaft. We can able to see at the support the slope will not be 0. That is why here there is a variation of the slope. So, through very simple example of one intermediate support, I illustrated how the intermediate support can be handled easily. So, as compared to the transfer matrix method, now we can able to appreciate that the finite element method is quite convenient for even for difficult boundary conditions. Now, we will take up another example, very simple example, in which we will be obtaining the unbalanced response. So, how to obtain the unbalanced response, and we will be taking up very simple example, as we basically this example will be exactly same as we have done for the simply supported beam case. Only thing is now we will be adding the unbalance in the system. So, in this particular case, basically this is the similar simply supported beam. Only thing is we are now keeping a disc here. For illustration, again divided this into 3 elements, and at node 3 I am keeping one disc, and in this disc we will be keeping some unbalance. So, let us see various property especially of the unbalance. So, unbalance is 0.05 kg at a radius of 0.05 meter, and the location of that unbalance with some reference position from the shaft is, let us say, 30° phase. This is with respect to some physical reference mark from the shaft. Now, we need to plot the unbalance, that means response with speed. That means how this amplitude of the response at one particular location, let us say at the disc location, how it changes with speed, because we expect that whenever there will be meeting of the speed with the natural frequency, there will be resonance. There we expect very high amplitude of vibration. Even we expect some kind of change in the phase information. So, not only we will be plotting the amplitude, but also we will be plotting the phase, and basically we will be obtaining all the critical speed of the system by changing the speed from low value from 0 to gradually we will be increasing it, so that we can able to get 4 or 5 critical here first 2 critical speeds will be obtaining. Because this is a continuous system, we can have an infinite number of critical speed, but we will be illustrating here only up to 2 critical speed. So, in this particular case, because we are considering the unbalance which will be acting in basically in 2 planes, and so we are considering the motion in 2 planes x and y. As such, there is no coupling in the 2 plane because bearings are rigid, but still for illustration purpose we are combining the 2 plane motion now. And for unbalance, we are considering, let us say, horizontal axis x as a reference, and the direction of the rotation is, let us say, positive is counterclockwise direction, and at t time is equal to 0, we are assuming that this unbalance is in the horizontal position, and at time t it occupies some arbitrary position where this angle is theta for some time t. Now, so sorry, this is phase. So, basically this is the phase which we are talking about. The theta is for this particular case is 30°. So, that means at t time is equal to 0, the unbalanced position will be 30°, but with time t then it will increase from that position. So, initial phase is 30°. So, initial position of the unbalance is here, and with time then it increases in the counterclockwise direction as positive rotation. For element 1, because we have divided this into 3 elements, so this is the elemental equation, and for first element, because there is no disk, so there is no change as compared to the free vibration, it is exactly same. There is no external force in this particular element because the unbalance is acting only at node 3. So, either we can consider that unbalance in node element 2 or element 3 in one of them. So, let us see, this is for element 1, there is no external force here. Element 2 also we have not considered. So, okay. So, this is also again this is element 1, but in YZ plane. This is a vertical plane. Element 1, this is the horizontal plane, ZX plane. The mass and stiffness matrices are same, only now you can able to see the change in the displacements. Now, these are corresponding to displacements in the horizontal plane, and they can be combined. So, this is the elemental 1 equation when we are considering both plane motion. So, you can able to see Here first 4 are corresponding to node 1, but horizontal plane, vertical plane. Similarly, this is for node 2, horizontal plane, vertical plane. Mass matrix, stiffness matrix, there is no external force. These are the reaction forces and moments. Similarly, we can able to write for element 2. In this element 2, we have considered the disk. You can able to see the disk mass is also appearing. Diametral mass moment of inertia of disk we have not considered, and stiffness matrix. This is the reaction force and torque, but now you can able to see this is the unbalanced force. This is unbalanced force corresponding to node 3, because disk is at node 3 of the element 2. Because we have both plane motion, so this is the horizontal force component and this is the vertical force component of the unbalanced force. Let us see how this we have introduced. So basically, unbalanced force is mb, mass of unbalance, into radius omega square, the phase of that, and e j omega t. This is the frequency, because it is rotating with the speed of the shaft. Now this is fx. This particular is fx. Now fy, because fy is lagging behind by fx in the direction of the rotation of the shaft by 90 degree, because you can able to see the direction of rotation is clockwise. So this particular y axis is lagging behind the x axis by 90 degree. So fx and fy, because they are component of the same force and they have phase difference of 90 degree, so they will be related by minus j, because this represent the minus 90 degree phase. So now you can able to see, so this is the horizontal force, and if we multiply by minus j, that will be the component of the force in the y direction. And this is the phase which we are talking about at the initial, that is 30 degree phase which we have considered. So, and this is the case when the shaft rotation is the other direction. So in this particular case, y axis will be leading x axis by 90 degree. So the force component in the y direction and x direction will be related by this. So instead of minus j, now only j will be there. So we have considered this particular case. Element 3 is identical to element 1, in which there is no disk. Only change is in this field variable. So here corresponding to node 3 and 4 field variables in the horizontal and vertical direction will be there. There is no external force here, because we have considered the disk in the element 2. Now these 3 elements can be added. So if we add this, this is just I am illustrating. You may not be able to see the various numbers, but this is the mass matrix for the whole 3 elements. So this will give just indication that how the size of the matrix will be if we assemble it. This is the mass matrix. This is the stiffness matrix. So again, these sizes are very small to look into the values, but overall procedure I am trying to explain that now the size of this will be because we have now 4 elements, and each 4 nodes are there, and each node is having 4 degree of freedom. So we have now 16 into 16 size of this. Okay, and this vector is having 16 to 1 size. Similarly, reaction torque, reaction force will be having this. All intermediate reaction force and moments will cancel. Unbalanced force is there at this node x component, horizontal component, and vertical component. There is no force, external force in any other nodes. Only at 2 locations corresponding to the horizontal and verticals are there. Now boundary condition of the problem. So here simply supported boundary conditions are there. So displacement in horizontal vertical direction will be 0. Similarly here at node 4, displacement in horizontal and vertical direction will be 0. Corresponding moments are also 0 at this and this locations. So that means this boundary conditions we can able to apply in the previous equation, and this is the reduced form of the equation. So basically in this particular case, now we have we have 12 into 1 size and 12 into 2 size. So this is this reduced form of the stiffness matrix, and reaction unknowns we have already we need to eliminate. Only the terms containing the unbalanced force will be there in the right hand side, but other reaction force and moments, if they are appearing, like at node 1 and 4, shear force will be 0. So corresponding rows and columns we are eliminated. So only known unbalanced force are here. So basically this particular force we have of this form, in which F is a complex quantity, here is the frequency. Similarly this is the response, in which this is a complex response and this is the frequency component. If we for harmony, because if we take double derivative of this, we can able to relate the response like this. Now we can able to see basically we can able to see this one, and this is the displacement. Now if we substitute this in the equation of motion will be of this form. All the E j omega t terms will be common, that will go out. So basically this equation is now in the frequency domain, and because now this is common, so we can able to take this common, and whatever the terms within that we can take inverse of that, multiply by the force. This will be the unbalanced response. Now let us see, we have taken at the disk location how the amplitude of the response changes with changing the speed. So if we change the speed, we will see that we will get peak at some location. These are peaks, these are the critical speeds. And if we see the change in the phase, because the response is a complex quantity, is having real part, imaginary part. If we take the amplitude of this, the previous plot will get. Phase plot will be the tan inverse imaginary part divided by the real part. So this will be the phase. So at the disk location, imaginary part divided by real part, tan inverse is the phase. So you can able to see that we have change in the phase corresponding where the peaks were there. So here there is a change, here there is a change. You can able to see there were peaks at that location. So wherever the critical speed occurs, there will be change in the phase. And this particular phase is, this response is in the vertical direction. Basically the phase was 30 degree from the x axis, horizontal axis, and this response is in the vertical direction. So obviously that is minus 60 degree, because y axis is lagging behind by minus 90 degree. So minus 90 plus 30 is giving us minus 60 degree phase. So initial phase is minus 60, then is changing by 180 degree at critical speed 1, then again is changing at critical speed 2 by 180 degree. This is the same plot, but in the one. So you can able to see wherever there is a peak, there is a change in the phase. So in fact this peak is not small, because we have taken some step size, and because step size was not very close to the critical speed, that's why this amplitude is low. Otherwise, if we take more refined value of the step size of the speed, we may get this as more but this phase will indicate nicely the location of this particular critical speed. So today, through some simple example, we try to illustrate how we can able to solve the free vibration to get the natural frequency and mode shape. How we can able to handle if there is intermediate support in a rotor system. Even we try to illustrate how we can able to get for simple rotor unbalanced response. Now with these examples, we can able to appreciate that if we take more number of elements, we have the size of the mass matrix and stiffness matrix are larger in size. Now in the subsequent class, we will not only try to incorporate the gyroscopic couple and even some kind of damping into the system like Rayleigh's damping. We will try to see some methods by which we can able to reduce the size of the matrices without compromising on the accuracy. So that means some of the reduction schemes which we will be taking up in the next class. Apart from that, because till now in the finite element formulation, we have not considered the flexibility of the bearing. So that also we will try to see how the bearing equations we can able to club along with the shaft equations. So that will give overall idea about how the rotor bearing system can be analyzed using finite element formulation.